The next forged shape we're going to learn how to make is a leaf. So we're going to combine some of the techniques that you've already learned into making a nice organic shape. First thing we're going to do is draw out just the tip of the piece of metal. Remember, you normally want a slightly longer piece of metal than you actually need, so you have plenty of room for your hands to turn the metal without the heat traveling to them. So like I said, I'm going to draw out the tip, but just about the last 1/4 of an inch or so of this. So I can put just the tip of the metal in my forge and roll, move back and forth until I get that cherry red. Then I'm going to follow the same procedures to draw out. The same way as I drew it out before, I'm hammering and kind of pushing the metal at the same time, turning it 90 degrees and doing that same thing so that I get a squared out piece. This is to help keep the metal from splitting. Once you get it drawn out as far as you want, knock down the corners. Okay, so now we've got a nice little point on the end here. Now we're going to go down maybe an inch, inch and a half from that, and we're going to heat a small part of the metal in here, and we're going to draw that out as well. So you don't always just have to draw out on the end of something. Basically what I'm doing here is just turning the metal without sliding it back and forth to heat this one little spot, and I'm going to draw that out the same way. What I'm doing here is making a stem. Square it. And then I'll finish drawing it out and knock down the corners. So we've got a little bit of a thinner section there in between the tip and the middle. Now, I'm going to heat up that middle portion, the thicker portion. So I'm moving my rod back and forth in the flame and turning it at the same time. Easier with two hands. Being very careful not to get my flame on the thinner parts that I've drawn out. If I need those to be hot, I can let the heat travel down to them, but I don't need them to be hot in this case. Okay, once it's cherry red, bring it back to the sweet spot of my anvil, and I'm going to pound it flat. Turn it. You'll see we're starting to get a little aspen leafy type shape. And heat this back up. Now the metal has been pounded pretty thin, so I need to be careful not to burn it, especially at the edges. When I go back to my anvil, I'm going to switch to my ball peen hammer to do a little detail work. I'm going to push out the edges a bit more. So to do that, I'm going to hit and kind of push away from the center. And I've ended up with kind of a nice little organic leaf-like shape or fin-like shape, something like that. Once you have the basic shape of your leaf established, you can do all kinds of fun things with it. So I could texture the surface if I want to. For that, I'm going to use the cross peen hammer, which is right here. It's got this little kind of bladed edge. So set that right here until I'm ready for it. I'm going to heat my leaf up again. Lay it on the flat part of the anvil, and then I can hit it with that cross peen hammer. And again, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but it makes some little indentations in there. Do a few on the other side. so you can end up with some interesting textures on the surface of your metal. You can also create curves to make this look like a more organic form. So you can certainly shape it anywhere on the anvil, on the horn, or on the main part of the anvil. You can also find yourself one of these. This is called a swedge block. They usually live in the shelf over by the door as you come into the studio. Sometimes they get moved around and you'll find them on the shelf with the tubes and torch holders or sitting on anvils around the studio. So this has a whole bunch of forms that you can hammer into to create different types of shapes and forms. I'm going to use this one that's kind of like a tube up here, and I'm also going to have a piece of pipe, this piece of pipe here, that I'm going to lay on top. I'm going to sandwich my piece in between and hammer it. This is actually a bit of a challenge on your own, so if you're interested in doing this kind of thing, you can always call me over and I'll help you out. So we want to get the part we want to curve very hot, sandwich it into the swedge block in between the pipe. You want to get a good solid grip here, and then you're going to hammer it. Until you start to get this little spoon-like curve right here where the edges curve up kind of like a leaf does. And hit this one more time. Okay. So I'm not sure how well you can see it on the video. You can look in person at these things too, but it's got this nice little cupped leaf shape. I can make compound curves too. Compound curves are where you have something going one way and also another way. So let's have our leaf sort of fold over a little bit like it's got a drop of dew on the end. So again, I'm going to heat up the part I want to curve. I just need a small hammer to help me with this. And then I can curve that tip right over and shape it so it's got a nice little smooth compound curve. Maybe I'll add some little squiggles into the stem. Again, you're just heating up whatever it is that you need to bend. So I've got this fun little serpentine squiggling back and forth, very natural leaf form here. You're gonna have a lot of fun with this.